systems and teams. Those are my two nemesis things that I would say that, really caused me a lot of problems. Systems mainly because when I first started my business, I had no real idea that I even really needed them.
Broadcasting from Boston, Massachusetts, you're listening to the Technology Equals Equality podcast.
Welcome back to the Technology Equals Equality podcast. I'm your host, Lori Brooks, and this is episode 76. Thank you so much for joining me as we continue to kick off 2018 by highlighting females in business. Before we jump into this week's episode, however, I just wanted to share with you that next month, February of 2018, we will be hosting the very first Technology Equals Equality podcast challenge ever. So stay tuned at the end of this episode for all of the details. Now, please join me in welcoming serial entrepreneur Nicole Wipp to the show. Nicole is an expert in team building. For over a decade, Nicole has been creating 6- and 7-figure profitability in her companies. Her goal is to help entrepreneurs looking to scale their business and improve their teams. Nicole has been a featured expert in Business News Daily, The Huffington Post, Daily News New York, and Cross-Border Business Symposium. Nicole has perfected the art of the pivot and started multiple 6-figure companies, all while battling a rare and fatal disease. Rather than letting a diagnosis stop her, Nicole used it to propel her in business today. Nicole, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So before we go ahead and dive into your entrepreneurial journey, I want to go ahead and rewind the clock just a bit. Tell us a story of what it is you thought life would be like in the future. When you were a kid or a teenager, when an aunt or uncle would ask you, what is it you want to be when you grow up? What was your response to that question? What did you think your future would look like?
That's sort of funny. I will say that I don't know because I didn't know. And this, I think, is really important because one of the things that I always tell people is lack of clarity is the enemy to success. And when I was a young woman in my early 20s, I did not have clarity about what my life would look like, what I wanted it to look like. I was sort of just letting things happen. I was going with, wherever it was life was taking me, I was letting it take me. And that is, I think, it's a crucial part of my personal journey because that is exactly the opposite of how I am today. I think I had this misguided idea that life was going to be great and everything was going to be fine and I was going to be super successful, but I literally had no clarity about what that actually meant or how I was going to get there. It just sort of was like this, the idea how we get of being princess in the castle or something. It was literally as real as that to me. It was the same kind of thing.
Right. And the princess in the castle scenario, I think, is something that we've all grown up in some form or fashion with Disney shows. And the princess is never employed. She never has a job. Role-playing for male versus female as children is very different. Females may be playing that, princess in a castle role, whereas males have firemen, policemen, things of that sort, career-oriented role-playing that makes them have that thought process of what it is they may want to do later on, whereas females don't necessarily have that same setup. And when thrown a curveball later in life as a female, once you have been employed, it's difficult to navigate left or right, which way you should go, and the best direction to get to success. So I think it's important that we as females commit to finding a mentor, finding someone that can assist in not only navigating those moments, but assisting in developing a plan to achieve that level of success or that picture of success that you have gone about building for yourself. So what do you feel were some of the first steps you took once you decided it was time to start working for yourself and really building out your business and your brand?
Well, okay, so some of the things that you just said about mentor and all of those kinds of things were really true for me in the respect that as a young woman, I had no mentors. I had nobody to look up to. I grew up in a very small town with, what I would say is sort of narrow small town thinking. I knew that there must be more to life than that. I could break out in the Disney song right there, but But I knew it, but I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know how to get there. I mean, I read a lot of books, but I didn't know anything about real life. So, but one of the things that I did know as a young person was that I sort of had to do things my way. So that's been a big sort of theme for my whole life. And every time when I was young, I tried to work in a job, a real job, what I would say is a real job, which is working for somebody else, like a corporation or something. It did not work out for me. And that was sort of the genesis of my realizing that that was not a good fit, that I had to take control of things myself, and I had to figure out my own path without doing it somebody else's way. And so the steps I started to take were just to try it. I was really one of the things I think I've never really been too afraid of failure. Where it's no big deal to me if I fail compared to maybe how other people feel. I'm willing to try. I'm willing to try because I have a lot of self-belief I did back then. So that was when I first started. Just being willing to try was the very first step. But I think my biggest step and the biggest leap that I made was when I consciously and deliberately aligned myself with people that could help me on my path. Then that's when things really changed.
Right. Because we are the sum of the people that we spend the most time with. So when you start consciously cultivating that group of people and make sure that those people are supportive, understand what it is you're doing, and capable of assisting you in not only navigating but creating your journey, you can see an enormous difference, definitely. What do you feel were some of the most difficult parts of becoming an entrepreneur? What do you feel was one of the hardest pieces of, taking those first steps and beginning to brand yourself and build out your business?
Well, I think it was just, the fear of whether I would have enough money to live. That might be, I don't, that for me is not ever been my biggest problem, taking the step forward. The first step was never really been my hardest part. The biggest, hardest part that I've ever had has been then how to take it further, how to make it more than just that very first step. Because the first step for me was pretty easy. It was then the next and the next and the next. That was my hardest part. And, for me, one of the biggest initial problems I ever had was systems and teams. Those are my two nemesis things that I would say that, really caused me a lot of problems. Systems mainly because when I first started my business, I had no real idea that I even really needed them. I mean, I was just reacting a lot instead of being proactive. And then team, once I got to a place where team became necessary to my mental survival, then the problem with that was really the functional understanding that the things that make you a great entrepreneur, so even if you can do things that make you money, which has never really been my problem. I know how to do things to make money, but to take it another step and be a great leader of a great team, that's a whole different skill set. And I had to really understand that and learn it and then make myself be that person in order to have a great team.
Definitely modeling actions of someone who's been there and done that. Again, finding a mentor or a coach to help you develop that plan is always important. But if you can find a way to, model the actions of someone that admire, whom has been there and done that and reached that level of success, it's very useful to begin modeling those actions and the steps that they took in order to help yourself, definitely. What do you feel drove you to push past the difficulties of creating the team or, building out your systems? What do you feel motivated you the most and really pushed you past that area?
Pain. So everything that I do has done as an entrepreneur has in some way been driven by pain. And what I mean by that is I became an entrepreneur because the pain of working for somebody else was more than my fear of being an entrepreneur. I buckled down and made myself get systems and processes because the pain of not having them was much more than the pain of making myself do it. I made myself become a great leader to a great team because honestly, the pain of having wrong fit team members was so much worse than not taking the time out to do it. to understand it, to build it, to make it real for me. So, like, literally, I wouldn't be not being honest if I didn't say it's truly from pain.
Definitely. Pain is truly an amazing motivator for many. When it's all pleasure, we become complacent. I've spoken with a number of entrepreneurs who have been motivated by pain. I myself was motivated by pain back in 2009. The idea of someone else having control over whether or not I had the ability to generate an income with a chronic illness was too scary for me to, just kind of leave it up to someone else. So I totally understand. What do you feel was the biggest key to success for you on this journey?
Well, I'd say the first key is perseverance and belief in oneself. I think that one of the things I always tell, I do a lot of speaking, and in fact, I'm doing some speaking this week, and one of the things I always tell people is that establishing and maintaining your confidence is absolutely essential as an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurial life is a roller coaster, and you have to accept that from the beginning. You have to accept that there's going to be highs and lows. So I have really been conscious of doing things to feed my confidence, because I need that in order to stay motivated and to continue. That was the beginning, and certainly those things hold true today. But the different key to my exponential growth was team. I had a lot of success. I think like a lot of people would have looked at all my success prior to my team and would have said, wow, I wish I could do that. Because I had success, my perseverance alone made it happen. But the problem is that you can only do so much on your own. And you can be an entrepreneur that does all the things, which I think some of you can relate to, of being the person that does all the things. Or you could be an entrepreneur that only does the things that you do the best and leave the rest to other people. And when you do that, your ability to generate the things that sort of are other motivators, money, success, those things come automatically when you are able to act within the mental energy and the things that you do the best, and you have team members that are able to do the same.
A positive mindset, maintaining that confidence level. I love it, Nicole. I often reference PRISM, perceived reality, inspiring successful minds, because your perceived reality is something that you can so very easily maintain and change on a regular basis for yourself if you're consciously aware of it. And then, of course, building out the right team to support you in your strengths. Nicole, what do you feel was the biggest driver for you in maintaining that mindset, in keeping your confidence levels up?
Well, you have to really think about your own tolerance for whatever it is that you might be afraid of. One of the things I always do to check my fear is I tell myself, what is the absolutely worst case scenario that's going to happen here? And the worst case scenario isn't that I'm going to lose my house. And the worst case scenario isn't that because I know that if I can't make enough money through my entrepreneurial endeavors, I'll go work at a fast food restaurant if that's what I have to do, because there's no shame in doing it if that's what it means to keep my house. And so for me, I always say, what's the worst case scenario? And usually it's not as bad as, you might build it up in your head to be if you don't think it through. So I think that's one of the things, is what is your tolerance and what is the worst case scenario? And can you survive the worst case scenario? And if you say yes, then you can do it. You can move forward. And so that's part of it, is really being grounded in the reality. And then also, I'd say really being the person that says, I will do what it takes, and really meaning it. Because when I started my first, I've had many businesses over the years, but I would say my first really seriously successful business, it was driven by this whole idea, was I going to lose my house? I had gotten divorced, and I was married to somebody who was very good financially. I had a very financially comfortable situation in my marriage, and I was leaving that. And one of the things that was driving me at that moment was my determination that I was not going to be seen as a person that had to rely on him to survive. Like, I would not allow that. To me, I was like, I will do whatever it takes. And so, for whatever it takes and whatever drives your whatever it takes, like, that's sort of also what you have to really instill in yourself, that you will do it. Because sometimes it takes having to push through really hating your life sometimes as an entrepreneur. Like, you really hate what you're doing. You really hate what's going on. You really hate, feeling so uncomfortable, but you have to be able to push through it. And so you have to have those two things.
Definitely. Confidence and perseverance. I mean, you need to have the confidence in yourself to know that you will succeed, and the perseverance to get through the moments that are not going to be bright and sunshiny. It's a very windy path as an entrepreneur. There's ups and downs, highs and lows. And you need to know what your tolerance level is, definitely. If you had the opportunity to go back, say, 10 to 15.
Well, actually, I just would like to put one more cherry on top of that, which is this. I am in multiple masterminds with some very, very well-known and very successful entrepreneurs. And I can tell you that almost every single person that is an entrepreneur that breaks a million mark that I know, and I know a lot, are people that are driven by pain. Because when you are comfortable, you don't have the motivation to change.
Right. Comfort, complacency can definitely be a career killer. Once you become stagnant and lose that momentum, it's difficult to restart. So don't allow success to stagger or hinder your continued success. Nicole, if you could go back, say, 10 to 15 years and tell yourself just one thing, what would it be?
I would caution myself against putting myself in a situation that I can't easily get out of. So what I mean by that is putting myself into a situation where I am too comfortable. I know that one of the things that I personally thrive on is when I deliberately make myself feel uncomfortable. But as you grow in success, it's very easy to slip into this feeling of being comfortable. And that really can be an inhibitor and there are things that you can do to sort of change that dynamic for yourself if you are somebody that's motivated like that. But that would be something I would just caution myself, because certainly I could just cruise on what I've done right now and I wouldn't need to do anything more, but I'm just not built that way. But I've made it harder for myself to take steps up because I've created this comfort level. So it's like, so going back to the whole topic, I would caution myself to not deliberately make that situation, like not to let the trappings of success be something that demotivates me.
Right. Don't deliberately put yourself in a position of comfort, because you can begin to stagger your own success. Nicole, the theme of the show is to hear the journey, find the pain, and create solutions. We aim to assist our guests and our listeners by diving into the pain our guests are experiencing to provide our listeners with an opportunity to develop ideas for projects or businesses in an industry they may not have been thinking of. And Nicole, we'd love to help you. If you had a magic wand and could change anything at all in your business, what would it be and why?
Wow, that's a really good question, because I deliberately design my businesses to be the way I want them. I mean, that's a big part of how I think what sets me apart. So that's a hard question. But what could I magic? I would have created more freedom in the structure of my law practice. So I have two businesses. I have both a consulting and training firm, and then I also have a law firm. I would have structured my law firm to give me even more flexibility than I already have, which is a lot compared to almost any lawyer I know. So many entrepreneurs are building sort of personality-based brands, right? And that can be a blessing, and it can also be a curse, because when you are the personality behind your business, the fact is that clients want you, because you've created the wanting of you. And so if you really want a business that actually gives you freedom, a personality-based business isn't the right one, because you are going to be in the trap of success right there, right? That's the literal trap of success, is when people just want you. And so, I have done things like with my law practice, I deliberately moved it away from being a personal brand law firm. But still, because I am well known as the lawyer to go to for this topic, I still am trapped by my own success in the respect that clients want me. They don't want my team. And so, it's just sort of thinking about like that, like what can you do to make that different? What are the ways that you can structure your business to change that? And if that would be something that would be important to you. So for me, that would be important to me. And I would have started things a little bit differently in order to create that, and make that a little less dependent on my personality or me personally.
Definitely. Be sure that the business you are building fits you personally and the plans that you have for your future and your lifestyle as you're growing it. Nicole, you've been absolutely wonderful. I thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise. Please share the best way for our listeners to find you.
Easily found on any social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. Just put my name in and you will find me.
Nicole, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Nicole, thank you again for joining us this week and for sharing your time and expertise with the community. Techie community, comfort can kill a career, so be aware of that and don't get stuck. And reach out to Nicole Wipp at NicoleWipp.com. Or you can always reach her through our show notes page at technology-equality.com/Nicole Wipp. I promised you I would share all of the details to our upcoming podcast challenge. This coming Thursday, February 1st of 2018, the only reason I'm throwing the date out there is so that if somebody's listening to this in the future, as digital content does live forever, they have a reference point and they're not attempting to enter this challenge months later. So this coming Thursday, February 1st through the 15th of the month, I would like for the techie community to send me your why. Why it is you do what you do. Entrepreneurial journeys require great motivation, willpower, dedication. What is it that gives you that drive, techie community? The top 3 answers will be featured on an upcoming episode, as well as receive a gift from the techie community. Not an ebook, not digital content, an actual gift mailed direct to you from the techie community. So I want for you to leave me an email, leave me a voicemail, or even send us snail mail and include your why and your mailing address so that we can send your gift if you're chosen as one of the top 3 responses. Send the snail mail to P.O. Box 51676, Boston, Mass. 02205. Leave a voicemail at 617-905-6939, or you can always send an email to info@technology-equality.com. Thank you again for joining us for episode 76, and until our next episode, when we continue to hear the journey, find the pain, and create solutions. Enjoy the week.